Hi, I'm Ryan and I created Nyched, and today we're going to do another React video looking at some shorts that I've found and kind of taking the ideology of niche and applying it to that and giving my perspective. So let's jump in.
I had a kid who never turned in anything. I mean, he would come to school. He didn't want anything to do with me. I tried parent-teacher conference. They were uninvolved. Didn't want anything to do with me. He was a junior or a senior, and he would draw, and they were amazing. And I was like, awesome. I said, dude, you're a really, really good artist. I said, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to be a tattoo artist. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I said, that's cool. I said, you can just go do that now. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, they hire, and you're old enough to get a job. Just go tattoo. Don't do this. And he quit. Like, he dropped out of school and became a tattoo artist. But no, I talked to him like months later. He's like, I love it. He's like, I don't know why I was there. He was like, I just knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense. If we had more apprenticeships and stuff like that, there's no reason we need to be in school until we're 18. Now, you might say, hey, there's a maturity level disparity compared to, say, 150 years ago when kids were, 15 and running family businesses and stuff like that. And yeah, you're probably right. But that boils down to the acceptance of that in society, and it boils down to the quality of parenting and the quality of friends around these kids. So it all kind of goes together. But if we decided as society, which we probably won't, but if we did decide to hold kids to a higher standard, they would rise to that occasion. I have a 3-year-old, and she surprises me every day with the level of maturity that she has. We try really hard within reason to give her responsibilities that are just outside of her comfort zone and things that she thinks she can't do. And it's amazing how when you say, hey, why don't you just try, see if you can, I'm here if you need help, they rise to the occasion. So I think it's great what this teacher did. There aren't a lot of teachers that would say that, like, if you're passionate about that, you should go drop out of school. But most of us don't need to be in school for the first 25 years of our life. There's plenty of opportunities out there for us to go get jobs and have really good careers and really enriching lives that pays really well and allows us to do those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, if this kid was an artist and he was really good at it, and he had the opportunity to not be sitting in school 8 hours a day and go and perfect his craft, like, he's going to look back on that, and that's going to be one of the biggest moments in his life that, we all reach forks in the road. So very cool. Great for this teacher to call it out and say it, not trying to get rid of its student, but trying to get him on the right path for his life. Very awesome.
Tell us about your reaction to Luigi Mangione. I was reading up, that perhaps you've been supportive of what he did. Could you clarify what you think?
No, I'm not going to just have some controversial moment so you can get clicks. I'm not doing that. What are you going to bring up next? The Middle East? I went to summer school 3 out of 4 years in high school. I'm not qualified to talk about this.
You said about Elon that he was ruining Earth, I saw on The View. You're critical of him. What do you think of all the boycotts, like even the violence
I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. I have no idea what's going on. I watch Instagram. I watch people wipe out on motorcycles. I watch lions and hyenas fight each other. I don't think you should be asking a comedian. You're a journalist.
Comedians are on top of current events.
No. That's weak. That's you guys passing the buck. You guys need to have balls again, which you don't. You guys always goes, should we be thinking this? Duh. You guys present stuff like that. You guys used to have balls. You need to get your balls back. And it's not my job. I am a dancing clown.
So, yeah. If that were the case, but I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but Bill Burr brought this up on his podcast or on some interview he was on. I forget exactly where I saw it, but he's the one who brought it up. So of course people are going to ask him about it. If he doesn't want to talk about it, he shouldn't talk about it. He shouldn't put it out there into the world. We all have the option to hit that post button or to not hit that post button. And he decided to make comments about Luigi Mangione, and who had, killed the CEO of, I forget, United Healthcare, whatever the healthcare company was. And he made comments, he had an opinion, and now they're asking follow-up on that. He had an opinion on Elon Musk, they're asking follow-up on it, and he's like, you guys come out here for clicks. Well, it's like, no, like, Bill, you opened the can of worms by making comments on it. They're asking for clarification. It's like if someone came to me and asked for clarification on the comments I'm making about you, I'd say, yeah, I think that, if Bill Burr wants to be a comedian, then he should just be a comedian. It's not that he can't have an opinion, but he shouldn't be offended or frustrated when somebody comes to ask him for clarification. That's the point. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about this stuff. I'm saying that, yes, you should talk about this stuff, but when you get asked about it, you shouldn't be like, oh, you guys are crocs, which, most of them are. And I agree with them. They need to get some balls back and actually do some reporting a lot of the time. But, he's being asked these questions because he brought them up online and then posted it online. It's not like he's talking to somebody by himself in a closet in his room. He brought it up and then he posted it online. So I don't buy into it. That's stupid. That is dumb. You're being really stupid. And to be fair, he brought up that he went to summer school 4 years out of his high school career. But that's just a dumb reaction. You had an opinion that you posted online. Someone asks you about it and you're like, oh, don't look at this. Don't look over here. Please don't look at that. How dumb. How dumb.
What do you do with the people who just are lazy and they don't want to help themselves?
They are not lazy. They're lost. Lazy is a symptom. The source of the laziness is they're lost. If you look at the science behind why we procrastinate, a large portion of procrastination is depression. And I can't think of a more debilitating emotional state than feeling lost. When you are confronted with that, you just immediately feel helpless. You have no clarity for the direction of your life or a clarity of how to solve a problem in your life. You will naturally press the emergency brake, and then after prolonged panic, guess what happens? Helplessness.
Well, that's a bit depressing, but that's an interesting perspective. I'd be interested to read some more data and studies on that. But yeah, I know for sure when I'm depressed, and I've struggled with depression since I was about 10 years old, on and off, different times through my life. Felt it stronger, not felt it at all. But when I am more in that mental state, it is a lot harder to be any level of productive, any level of a productive member of society. Even when I've been in that situation, I just want to be in bed and alone all day long. Gut reaction, knee-jerk reaction, just to categorize all laziness into a bucket of depression, that's probably a little reductive. I think there are truly some people out there that, it is true. If you're lazy, you probably don't have direction in your life. But I don't think that being directionless immediately means that you are depressed. I think there are plenty of people who are directionless, who don't have a way to go in life, who just haven't found that thing that they're passionate about yet. But that doesn't mean that you have total and utter despair, which is, to me, what depression is. And I think, I don't know how else you define it. That is what depression is, total and utter despair. You don't feel like there's a way out. So yeah, all that to say that that's an interesting perspective. I don't think we can always say that people who are directionless are not are depressed. But definitely laziness and directionlessness kind of go hand in hand. So finding something you're passionate about, even if it's not your job, but maybe you're into jujitsu, or you think you might be into jujitsu, right? Like that stage before knowing if you like something. Go and try a bunch of things out. Go figure out what you like. Talk to people who maybe aren't even your friends, but you see them doing things and you're like, hey, that seems interesting. Can I try it? Can I see if I actually like it? And be willing to invest some time and some money into something that will get you out of your comfort zone, get you out of that situation. I know if you are depressed, you can't always shock yourself out of the system, but I know when I've just been lazy before, I have been able to shock myself out of that scenario by going out and doing things that I am passionate about. So I love skiing. I know I've talked about it a little bit before, but it's one of my favorite things to do that's ever been invented. I've been skiing since I was a little kid, but it's so important to do what we're passionate about. And if you don't have passions, it's important for you to kind of experiment and explore. If your parents didn't put you in situations where you get to interact and experience things, it's your responsibility to do that. And I'm not necessarily saying outside, though the health benefits of getting outside are massive, but you got to find some things to do. Our generation has kind of gone through this tech bubble and grew up in it, and the kids coming behind us are in the same situation, but we've got to do more than just sit on the couch and watch television. That's fine at times, right? But there's a big, beautiful, massive world out there, and this is one of my favorite things to do. So if you're one of the real ones who doesn't stay inside and turns into a vegetable or a pumpkin or whatever at the end of October and doesn't come out until, the spring birds start singing, then drop a comment below. Let me know what you like to do in the winter.
I'm pregnant. Positive.
You sure it's mine?
Yeah, I'm sure it's yours. I'm gonna have the baby.
Good.
I said I was gonna have the baby. I didn't say I was gonna keep it.
Adoption?
Sure, why not?
I don't think I'm gonna be okay with that.
Okay with what?
Some kid of mine out in the world thinking they weren't wanted.
You'd be a shitty father.
Hey, fuck you. I know I wouldn't.
I give this kid up for adoption. I want to get it as far away from me as possible. I don't want to run into some kid who looks like me, or worse yet, you at the Costco.
All right, so I have the baby, or you have the baby, or we have the baby, right?
We? Oh, what, are we getting married now?
Want to?
Do you love me?
I like you.
Be still my heart.
You love me?
Hell no. I actually think I'm starting to fucking hate you.
Amy. Hey, where are you going?
Here's the deal. The last thing I need in my life is a man telling me what to do. I really don't give a shit about what you think, but I do understand that you might have some feelings about this. What if we're not meant to be together?
We break up.
What if the baby has, Down syndrome or something?
I hope you take care of it.
I'm gonna die at a young age.
I'll still be here.
Yeah, well, what if you get hit by a bus?
All right, look, maybe I will. All right, we don't know what's gonna happen, but if you decide to have this baby, I want to make damn sure it has a father.
Yeah, so I think we need more of this in the world, where this is what you're supposed to do, right? When you realize that there was I don't even know what to say. Why don't I know what to say? This is such a hot topic, Should men be allowed to dictate what happens in this situation, or even have an opinion at times? And that's not the type of content I really want to create. I don't want to be in that space. I have my own opinions, but that's not what Nyched is about. Nyched isn't necessarily about my opinions. It's about sharing different ideologies. So I'm having a tough time reacting to this video because I guess I'm a little afraid of responses, but I think this is great. I think when there's an unplanned pregnancy, something you weren't expecting, you were a boy. You were not a man yet. You were a boy because you were messing around, screwing around, doing things that you weren't supposed to be doing. It shocks your system. You become a man in this situation. I know this is a scripted television show, but I think it conveyed the emotions really well in these couple of scenes of what most men would feel like. I don't want some kid of mine not knowing his father, stepping up. She's asking all these questions, worried about it. I guess that something was wrong with her because she said she wasn't going to be there very long. But, he's like, I'm going to be here. He's like, yeah, all of that might happen, but I want to step up, is essentially what he was saying, which is the response of a man when he's in that situation. Ideally, you don't get in that situation. Ideally, the best and safest way to do that is abstinence and waiting until marriage. But, once that happens and this kid is coming along, to me, the only response is to step up and take responsibility. Now, that might be through getting the kid adopted or becoming its father, but either way, those are the responsible things to do. Finding someone who's going to care for and love that child are, in my mind, the way to go about it. You got to take care of that. You've got to, we're all going to make mistakes, right? Every single one of us has made mistakes. And I know as a man, I feel them very strongly. And it's usually an internal thing that I keep inside. I don't usually share that with a lot of people. I usually process it. I figure out what I did wrong. And I make sure that as best as I can, to the best of my ability, I never make that mistake again. And when you're in a situation like this, where you find out that you're the father of a child, I think you need to step up. You got to step up. You're either a boy or you're a man. And men step up. They step up to the plate and they take care of things and they get things done. So that's my 2 cents on it. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who don't agree with me, and that's okay. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. This video is sponsored by Nyched. Nyched is the world's first human interaction platform, and it's something revolutionary. Essentially what I did is I took what people don't like about social media, algorithms, gatekeepers, and I removed them from the platform. In its place, I put you and customization so that you can curate your own feed and decide what comes up. There's a behavior change in the sense that when you are posting, you add company curated categories to your post so that then every user has the ability to say, I don't want to see skiing videos. Not sure why you wouldn't, but you have the ability to say that I don't want to see any skiing videos. I really like Ryan, but don't want to see his skiing videos. And then there's an in-app currency as well to kind of closely mirror the way the world works. When we invest our time with someone, that's a limited resource. So the in-app currency helps to create a limited resource within the app so that hopefully people think about what they're posting before they post it, or what they're commenting before they comment, because they don't have an unlimited amount of comments and posts and that sort of thing. And the goal there is to hopefully elevate the quality of the conversations that are happening on the platform, the same way that you would in the real world in normal social groups that you're in. You want to elevate the level of conversation there, and you usually don't allow people who aren't in your tribe, like if they don't line up with what you believe ideologically, that group, that social group, you don't kind of let those things be in, or you don't let those things be talked about. Maybe the person can stay in, but certain topics are off limits for those groups, and that's how the real world works. So I'm trying to mirror that online. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I ask you go to resistthealgorithm.com. You can learn more about the beta, find out how you can support the project, and some big things are coming up here in the next few months. Really excited to release a new update to the app, which will provide a way for users to use the application for free. So if you're interested at all, please stay tuned, subscribe or follow, and more information is coming soon. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get back to these reactions.
So the way that I handle my classroom is I treat my classroom like it's a office building, and my students, their desk simulate a cubicle. Each desk simulates a cubicle. So each student is like working in a corporate office. Their desk, their office, their business. If they're listening to music, if they're on their phone, if they are eating their snacks, that's your office. As long as your office is clean when you leave, that is your responsibility. However, if it affects your productivity status, when I come around to do an assessment to see if you're evaluating your job, if you're not doing your job effectively, that affects your job score and your paycheck. Okay. So my kids get paid every 2 weeks, which means I update my grades every 2 weeks. Nice. And I know you're like, what? No, they accrue paid time off. So if a student comes in every day, they clock in for their shift. So they have a clock in question. They clock in for their shift. And then I do like a 10-minute lesson on whatever it is that we're doing that day. And then they work their first half of their shift. Yeah. So when they work their shift, they have a break. And so they go on break. Once they go on break, they come back in. They come back. We do a little bit of review. They finish the second half of their shift. Okay. After they finish their shift, they clock out. Each day that grade gets added to their paycheck. So when their grade is like a 90, and so that 2 weeks, they got a 90. So that's an A. So they get 15 PTO. They accrued 15 PTO. And they get 10 PTO for a B. So every paycheck, they get PTO. So if a kid comes in, so
how do you keep track of all this?
I don't have to. That's the thing. I write it down on a slip of paper in cursive because they can't duplicate my handwriting. And then they have to keep it, just like they have to keep their dollar bills. If you go to a store and you've lost your dollars, I can't pay you. You can't pay for something. So they keep their PTO in their wallet or whatever. So they turn it in. So if the kid comes in, my boyfriend broke up with me, I'm not doing nothing today. Okay, well, you can take the day off. Do you have any PTO? If the assignments that day are 40 points and you have 40 PTO, you can take the day off.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think I like that. Yeah, I'd have to listen to all the requirements again, but I mean, that is going to prepare you for the world a lot better than sitting at a desk, having to be quiet, having to read out of a book or whatever, I mean, I don't know how old these kids are. If they're in kindergarten or 5, maybe that's not going to work. But she's kind of talking like they're older than that. I guess the only critique I'd give is if her kids can't write in cursive, that's a little bit on her as the teacher to teach that. But I know that's a fading art nowadays. So it is kind of funny. She's like, I write it in cursive. But I like that. I like. We've been doing schooling, especially, your primary schooling in America the same way for over 100 years now. And, there's a good argument to say that it's not working that well. So I'm totally open for new ideas and new ways to go about things so that our next generations can compete in the global marketplace with attitude, ideas, ability, that type of thing. And too often the school system is failing our kids. Now, I get that, anybody who's a teacher is going to say, well, we're underfunded, this and that. Yes, sure. I agree. I'm not trying to make light of that. I'm just trying to say that, we've got to objectively look at the situation and then figure out what the diagnosis is. Like, yes, that's a symptom, but we still have to make a plan and say, okay, there's a problem. Let's move forward. Let's try new things. And if this makes her students more successful out in the real world, which is what really matters, not how well you do in school, unless you're going to stay in school till you're 40 to get a doctorate. If you're going to spend half your life in school, then maybe the way the school system is set up now matters more. But most of us don't do that. Most of us go through school. We come out in the real world and we have to learn to survive here. And frankly, I don't remember a whole lot that school taught me that helped me succeed outside of school.
What is a healthy relationship with social media?
Reduce significantly the frequency of engagement. When you look into it from a dopamine point of view, every single time you enter social media, you're experiencing this very fast elevation in dopamine, and that creates a very quick crash as the brain seeks for its balance. We only originally could experience that elevation in dopamine from successfully spending 5 hours building a hut or making a fire or hunting down an animal. So it was a very slow increase. We experienced pleasure, a nice slow steady decline. If you look at social media, you're effectively experiencing the same elevation in dopamine as a hunter-gatherer would after 5 hours of hunting, but you're experiencing it within 3 or 4 seconds from opening the app. And therefore, because it rises so fast and the brain is just thinking, wow, I can't deal with this overstimulation, after you come off social media, you get this really significant crash. This is called phasic and tonic dopamine, and that creates this low mood, low energy, inattention type experience. Having really strong boundaries to reduce frequency seems to be very important.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Just without any studies or data from a personal perspective, I think if we all sat for a couple of minutes and thought about it, or maybe wrote down how we felt before and after using social media, we would probably all come to this conclusion on our own. That's interesting that we're getting the same dopamine hit after a couple of seconds that historically we would have only gotten after a few hours of hard, intensive work. But I've talked before about putting barriers into my own life to reduce the amount of social media usage that I have. And every time one of these types of sections in a video comes up, someone says, oh, it's real interesting that you're using social media to get the word out. And yeah, but how else would I do this? How else would I talk about this? We're watching a video of someone else talking about reducing social media usage that they posted online on a social media platform, the YouTube, a social media platform. So the biggest thing I've done in my life is just removed all notifications off my phone. And I've even gotten to the point where I've removed social media off of my phone entirely. And I engage with it on my terms when I go to use it on either a laptop or through the browser. So I put an extra step in place to detract me from just casually hopping on for a couple of seconds to check my notifications, which always turns into at least 15 minutes, if not an hour or two of my day just gone down the black hole that is social media. That's a big thing we're trying to do with Nyched, put the customization into your hands. I'm not saying that everyone should do this. Maybe you're in a job where you have to be on social media for most of the day, but if the customization and functionality is in your hands, at the end of the day, you get to craft your life online instead of being at the whim of the dictates of the social media companies and how they've designed things to keep us engaged and keep us attached and not allow us to get away to do the more important things in life. Now, again, maybe the most important thing in life is to be on social media, but I think there's a very small group of people in the world where that's actually true.
Hey David, sorry to bother you, but I noticed some bugs in the latest build. I have slacked you the full list and it's documented in Jira. Can you take a quick look and let me know what's going on?
Hi Greg, no problem. I'm actually on holiday with my family right now, but I can check when I get back. I'll be in the office next Monday.
I understand, but this is urgent. Just a quick look, won't take too long. We're under pressure from the client. It's that classic, isn't it? He knows you shouldn't be bothering him, so it's just a quick one. Like, do you mind just quickly checking?
I really appreciate the importance, but I'm with my family and taking some much needed time off. I'll be sure to prioritize this first thing when I'm back.
David, oh, we've dropped the high. David, I still haven't heard back about those bugs. The client is getting anxious. Could you just log in for 30 minutes to fix them?
Greg, I'm really trying to disconnect while I'm on holiday. I've been working late nights and weekends for weeks. I'd appreciate if we could wait until I'm back on Monday.
Look, I know you're on holiday, but this is important. If you can't fix it, at least send me some notes on what might be causing the issue. It's just a few minutes of your time. That's particularly frustrating because everyone knows like the troubleshooting's the hard bit, right? Like once you know the issue, it's usually pretty easy.
Yeah, if you know the answer, you do it,
exactly.
You know?
So that's just the backdoor way of saying, can you fix it?
I understand, but specifically took this time off to recharge. The team should be able to handle it until I'm back. I've already documented everything before I left.
Sunday, 11 a.m. David, I really need your help with this. The team says they're stuck without you. This could put the whole project at risk. Please just take an hour to sort out. Well, it was 30 minutes ago, so
it was a couple of minutes.
I don't want to say Greg's definitely making it up, but I'm starting to get a little bit suspicious.
Greg, with all due respect, again, so polite. At this point, I'd be like,
yeah, you would not be doing a David.
what is it? No, I wouldn't be. This is getting ridiculous. I've worked countless late nights to keep the project on track. I've documented everything and trusted the team to manage while I'm away. I'm entitled to my holiday without being disturbed.
This is part of the job, David. You need to be available when the team needs you.
No, Greg, it's not part of the job to be constantly available on holiday. I've gone above and beyond for this project, and all I'm asking for is a few days of uninterrupted time. I've been patient, but this is crossing the line.
Greg's a bad manager for a variety of reasons. Firstly, I have to say this, right? If you're messaging your employee saying, I apologize for messaging you on holiday, you don't get credit for saying that because you're still messaging them on holiday.
Yeah.
So, secondly, if you've got a business where anytime poor David goes on holiday, it completely falls apart, you need to sort your business out a little bit. Like, you need hire more, have a freelance. There's so many ways you can kind of mitigate that. Thirdly, just this sort of, I hate the sort of like, they start taking it personal when you're crossing a professional line. Like,
and I think the thing I would say about David is like, I like his responses. They're pretty well measured, but you don't need to respond.
Yeah, that's the bit, isn't it? Like you're just engaging at that point.
Exactly. You're just giving them a little bit of what they're asking for. And so in this, followed up with him, and his response was, Dear HR, after considerable thought, I've decided to submit my resignation effective immediately.
And also, like, well done, Greg, because David just went on holiday for a bit. I bet David leaving causes a few more problems.
Yeah, exactly. For getting someone to try and fix something that so many other people could have.
Yeah, so I mean, like, two things comes to mind. First, if I'm on vacation and my work reaches out to me, I'm doing exactly what David did here. I'm quitting my job. That's not a good environment. That company is not run well. I don't care how quote unquote successful that company is. There's some big problems behind the scenes. There's no reason a boss should be reaching out to me while I'm on vacation. Now, from the flip side of that, I've also been a manager. And now that I've said that, the only time I might have possibly ever reached out to a employee or, subordinate of mine while they're on vacation was if they did not do something correctly, like if they left something unfinished that they were supposed to get done before the end of vacation, before they went on vacation. But I can't think of a specific instance. And I'm sure if one of my past employees ever looks at this, they'd be like, you called me this one time while I was on vacation. It's like, okay, yeah, cool. I probably did. But no, obviously your mentality and your ideas can develop over time. You're not locked into believing what you believe today, tomorrow. You can be presented with new information and be able to change your perspective on things, which is how we should go about most things in life. Sure, there are some cornerstone ideologies that we all should hold near and dear to our hearts and protect. But even those cornerstone ideologies, when presented with better information and better perspectives and better data, you should be willing to allow those to adapt and evolve and change. So I'll say it right now. If in the past I called you while you were on vacation and you were one of my employees, I sincerely apologize, but I don't honestly think that happened. So if you're running your business this way, please stop. Your employees are not your employees 100% of the time. There's very few scenarios where, to me, this would be acceptable, and I really can't think of one off the top of my head. Like, even if you're in a high pressure tech startup or something like that, where there's 3 of you working and like everybody needs to pitch in like all the time, there's still got to be time for relaxation and recuperation and, just de-techifying your life. I can't think of the right word.
These bikers got some misleading information from somebody that said they could ride on this property. That person lied, the cop stopped him, and here's what happened.
How we doing, man?
Doing well. All right. Do any of y'all have permission to be riding back here?
Yes, sir. He's actually coming up behind us. Well, we apologize for this, guys, if we were inconveniencing y'all at all. We honestly thought we were okay to ride here.
Never, when there's a no trespassing.
Well, we were given some misleading information, and we apologize.
Hey, man. Hey. You guys are saying that you had permission to ride back here? You're given permission? Who gave you permission?
One of my friends, he brought me out here one time. I thought it was his place, so.
From now on, they don't come back out here?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Because she's the landowner.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have permission to ride out through here, okay?
Nowhere. I can't believe you're letting them go without any ID on them.
What do you mean? Well, man, Milton Police Department's hiring you. Put an application tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if you can let me do my job, that'll be wonderful.
These bikers got some.
So I think that cop is a good cop. That's pretty funny. Well, ma'am, Milton Police is hiring if you want to put your application in tomorrow. Yeah, so they made a mistake. Obviously, they're not allowed to be on the property. In most states in America, you get a trespass warning, and then if you come back again, you get a trespass. So as far as I can tell, that police officer was doing his job. Understandably, the owner of the property is frustrated. This is a situation where there's really not anybody in the wrong. A couple of guys thought that they were doing something okay. They found out they weren't. If they come back after this, yeah, there's a problem. And the cop, being polite and shutting that lady down, at least in a nice way. Like, I get she's frustrated. The police officer is doing his job by letting them know that they're not supposed to be out there. There's really no need for an ID, like, in that situation, in my opinion. Like, okay, you got the warning. You're gonna know if they're the same guys again, because it looks like kind of a small town type of deal. But very, very cordial interaction. I like when cops are treating people with respect and treating people as adults, and too often we're talked to like we're children, and that, mommy and daddy police officer is here to dictate to us what needs to be done. So again, I don't dislike cops. I do dislike a lot of culture around policing in America at this point in time, and I hope to see a change for the positive, because I think we do need a police force, but we also need to be treated as citizens, with respect. So yeah, cool for everybody involved. Everybody kind of handled that respectfully. The bikers were apologetic. I think that was an awesome interaction. That's why I'm showing it, because we need to see more of this in the world. We don't need to see all the contention all the time. Things kind of centered around, a little bit around teachers and a little bit around, psychology today. So, Nyched is all about finding new ways to interact with things that we are passionate about. And it's so important for us to have things that help us de-stress and help us to just release energy from ourselves. And getting out and doing things that we're passionate about is what this platform is all about. I hope that it's something that interests you. I thank you for being here. And having the ability to discover what makes you tick and what makes you excited to continue in the world, to actually do your job so that you can get to free time to do things that are fun and interesting and exciting for you, is just one of the most important things I think we can do. So I want to thank you for being here. But Nyched is the world's first human interaction platform, and it's totally within your control. If you want to learn more, go to resistthealgorithm.com. If you want to see more of these videos, do all the things you're supposed to do that YouTubers and TikTokers and content creators ask you to do. I'm not really big on that. I just want you to enjoy the content that's being created and enjoy your life. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Get out of here.